Good morning. We're live from Lindsborg, and we're going to try this one more time. Our sound didn't work right the first time, and so we were a little bit soundless. But we are a whole lot soundless. We were without sound. But anyway, we're going to go behind the scenes today. We're at the Blacksmith coffee shop, and many of you know this is a great place to get a sandwich or your favorite cup of coffee. And many of you love the environment here. I'm just going to pan the room a little bit with me in it. It's a great place to be for coffee, and it's starting to get to be lunchtime, so we're going to probably sneak out of the front part here, and we're going to head to the back. And Samuel Finch is going to be with us. Samuel is actually the roaster for the Blacksmith, and he's going to tell us a little bit more about his roasting here and just what he does to make the specialty products that are offered in the Blacksmith. So, Samuel, you want to head out, and I'll follow you. Like I said, it's about lunchtime here, so we're going to sneak out and hopefully make this a fairly quick little visit. I love the outside seating at the Blacksmith, particularly this time of year. It's just so great. It's sunny, and there's so many places. And right now, there's all this great new Rita Sharp artwork that's on the First Bank, Kansas building that you can enjoy from your outdoor seating. So we're going to head to the back, though. Many people do not know that the Blacksmith actually makes their own roasts. A lot of coffee shops purchase their roasted beans other places and just offer coffee itself as a drink. But the Blacksmith actually makes their own product. And so we're going to go behind the scenes today, and we're going to let you see kind of what happens with this. It's a very interesting process. So take it away, Samuel.
What we have here is when I purchase coffee,
Okay.
I get it when it's green, in a green form. So these seeds are the coffee beans, which when they are grown are essentially side-by-side twins within a coffee cherry.
So it's kind of hard to tell, but they're actually a real, like a greenish color, yeah.
Yep, they're very dense because there's a 10 to 12% moisture content
Okay.
in them.
So where do we go from here?
So again, drop them into the hopper.
Okay.
You then want to drop it into the roasting drum. So this lever is going to activate the roast. And so the beans are room temperature. And the roaster has been preset to 400 degrees.
So like super hot.
Yeah, so very hot. So when, on this graph, this is a graph that gives me an indication of what is, a rough idea of what is happening within the roast. So you can see the changing in the temperature. The yellow line is dropping, so that's a drop in temperature because room temperature beans, when they meet a hot environment, that temperature is going to drop, and it's going to look for a place of equilibrium. So, which is what I call the turnaround point. And when it reaches that equilibrium, the roast will then begin to progress into drying phase. So, as I said, coffee is about 10 to 12% moisture, and so the first part of the roast is going to be it's going to be an endothermic reaction is what is going to happen. So it's going to start evaporating a lot of the moisture that is within the beans itself, and then start the whole reaction of begin breaking down sugars and amino acids and all the crazy things like that.
So where do your coffee beans come from?
So I get my coffee beans from pretty much all over the world. Coffee is harvested or is grown in what's called the bean belt on the globe, which is between the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn.
Okay.
So those regions provide the most ideal growing conditions for coffee.
So it takes warm temperatures, can't have freeze.
It can't have any frost, so frost, insects, and natural disasters can really impact the quality of a coffee's harvest.
So Just list some of the countries that you typically order from.
Okay, so a lot of my coffee comes from places like Brazil, Guatemala, Honduras, Colombia. I get some from Africa, some from Sumatra over in Indonesia.
So why not all the same place?
Because all coffees are going to have different characteristics, different flavor characteristics that are innate within the beans itself. So coffee doesn't always just taste exactly the same. It depends on how it's roasted, but even so far back to where in the world it is grown, at what elevation it's grown.
Soil type, I
soil
suppose.
is going to play an influence in that,
Cool.
and also how it's processed.
So earlier you were sharing with me too the importance of how you source your beans.
Yes. So I use primarily importers who are I trust to ethically source my coffee.
So what does that mean for the farmer?
So what it means is that they are purchasing directly from the farmer, ensuring that they get a premium price for their crop. Because coffee is the #2 traded commodity in the world. And
Seriously.
next to, after oil.
So evidently it's not just Swedes that like their coffee.
No, not at all. So it is influenced a lot on the stock market. The C market price, it really plays a factor into into like the price of coffee. So that doesn't always ensure that farmers are getting a decent price for the work that they are putting into it. So the importers that I use, they just buy directly from them to really help them get a strong.
It takes care of their families.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's important to you at the Blacksmith that what you're doing is right from the get-go.
Yeah.
That's really good. So what are you doing right now? You're checking something.
I am testing some of the beans. So as the roast progresses, there's going to be different chemical reactions that are happening.
So tell me about that a little bit.
Yeah, so like I mentioned, the yellow line is going to give a rough indication of what the temperature is in the drum right now. But this graph, the changing graph, is what is called the rate of rise. So that's a rate at how quickly the temperature is changing within the beans themselves.
So what kind of coffee are you roasting right now?
Right now I'm roasting our house espresso blend, the Espresso Especial. So this is going to be a blend of Brazilian and Colombian coffees.
Okay.
That really has a nice tasting notes of blackberries, brown sugar, and milk chocolates.
Okay, so I wish all of you could smell what it smells like in here. It smells absolutely amazing. I was telling Samuel earlier, I always love the days they roast because outside I can smell, it smells almost like bread that's been baked a little bit longer than it should have been. But I just love that smell. And you were telling me there's actually a yeasty process, so it does smell a little bit like bread, just like I thought.
Yeah, so it uses a lot of the same chemical reactions are taking place take place in like toasting bread. So the Maillard reaction is a chemical reaction that results in changes in color. So as you can see right now, the changes are turning more from green to more yellow.
So like a yellow or a little bit of kind of a light beigey color.
Then
Yeah.
the aromas are starting to change, so it's no longer grassy. It's starting to smell a little more like a mixture of dry hay and a little bit of a yeasty smell. So as the yeasty smell kind of grows, that's sugars that are being broken down.
So you smell it throughout the process, and what is that
So
for?
I'm just smelling to see if it's progressing at the same at the rate at which I want it to.
So that makes me think that not any and everyone could do this. So you didn't just know how to do this. I mean, this wasn't like a process you just went in, turned on a machine, and you hit a couple buttons.
No,
What did it take to be able to be a roaster?
I started off apprenticing under the guy who founded Blacksmith Coffee Roastery, and then I had the opportunity to go and become officially certified as a roaster with the Specialty Coffee Association, which is the global association that we are a part of that deals exclusively in specialty grade coffee, which is the top highest quality coffee in the world. So I was able to go learn all about the science and the art of coffee roasting, and then have to take an exam to make sure that I understood all of the concepts that go into it. I'm by no means perfected it. It's always something that you learn.
So some of the blends here you've actually come up with yourself, right?
Yeah.
So tell about that a little bit.
So every year we do an annual holiday blends around Christmas time. So each year that is completely different. So I systematically formulate the blends
For that year, okay. And it's limited to a certain number of bags, so not just anybody can get it. They're still getting a little bit darker, you can see. So tell me a bit about your roaster itself, because this is a really good roaster, correct?
Yes, it is. So this is, we had this custom built by Diedrich Coffee Roasters. They are based out of Sandpoint, Idaho. And what makes them really, really good is 100% of the roaster, like all of the materials that go into building it, are made right here in America. So they fabricate literally every inch of the roaster itself. So before we got it, I was able to go up and visit the plant that they manufactured it, and I was trained on how to operate it and everything. So yeah, they make very high quality roasters.
And that's important because it's not like you have 10 of these.
Nope.
So if one breaks down,
this is the only one, aside from a smaller batch roaster that we have up front, that I can use in a pinch if I have to.
And this coffee machine is, from what you've told me, just sturdy, very dependable. It's just everything you need. You just know what you get every time you use it, which is fantastic.
And, since it is American made, I can call them right away if I have a problem with the roaster. I can call them and get really good customer service.
Just right
So
away.
I'm not like talking to someone in Germany or
Somewhere else, possibly.
like that,
Yeah.
so.
It's great to have locally made things. We found that out particularly this last year with COVID. It's been a lot harder to get those things. So about how long does this particular coffee blend take to make?
So this will take anywhere between 14 and a half to 15 minutes.
Okay.
Really, this will yield a medium roast.
These are really getting brown now. You can really tell the difference. Wow. It's fast.
Throughout, so at this point, up to this point, the beans have been absorbing the energy from the roaster itself. And so what that is doing in the chemical reactions that are happening, it is building up a lot of carbon dioxide in the beans themselves. And so we're getting ready to get to a point in the roast where the beans are going to eventually crack. And so that means that they are going to literally burst at the seams, because they can't contain the amount of built up carbon dioxide. And so first crack is when it pops along that seam, that little seam right there in the middle of the bean.
Okay.
And it's going to sound
like popcorn?
like popcorn.
So the first time I heard this, I wasn't quite sure about that, but it is truth. It does sound like popping popcorn. And it just smells so fantastic. So one of the things I hear frequently when people call the office is, I had a great cup of coffee and I want to know where I can get it and how I can get it. And this actually can be purchased online because you sell not just in the shop, correct?
No, we sell and ship anywhere and everywhere in the United States.
So do you sell outside of this country?
I have. Customs gets to be a little bit of an issue.
A little trickier?
A little tricky, but yeah, I've shipped up to Canada and places like that.
But because you buy really high quality coffee beans and you do a superb job of roasting here, which Samuel will not tell you himself, but I know people that have had this coffee and it's the only coffee they'll have from there on. They always come back and they order Blacksmith to have in their own home. And I am sharing with you on our Visit Lindsborg page how you can find their website to order that for yourself, because it is really good. I'm not a huge coffee snob. My husband and I are not huge coffee drinkers. We tend to be the people that like a lot of milk with a little coffee, but there are still a lot of coffee drinks here that I love. And I know the coffee here is really good from the people that just drink it black and like it that way. So we're getting a lot closer. You can tell by the color of the beans. They're just getting a lot darker. And you can feel the heat back in this room. It really puts off a lot of heat. So about how much longer do we have?
30 seconds.
About 30 seconds, and then we're going to watch the dump process, which is always so cool. My parents would always get up in the morning and fix a pot of coffee very first thing, and so I always associate this smell with the smell of my home growing up. It gives me good memories.
A little bit longer.
Okay. So when you check that last pull, what are you checking for?
Well, I'm just checking for to make sure that the coloring is what I like, to make sure that all of the beans, there's pretty much good uniformity in color. If there's not, that can indicate a slight
okay, so here we go.
deformity in the roast, and which can then lead to just it eventually tasting bad when it's brewed. Especially for our espresso, it is really essential that these roasts be evenly roasted. All the beans be evenly roasted, because even the smallest deformity can lead to a pretty gnarly cup of
A gnarly cup of espresso. So right now, this is the cooling process, correct?
Yes. Yep. So the beans, they've been dropped from a very hot drum, and they're actually continuing to roast themselves, and so they need to be cooled down as quickly as possible. So what is happening here, this is the cooling process, and there underneath in the back part of the roaster, there's a fan that is pulling through like the air from above the cooling bin, pulling it through the beans to cool them down, and the agitator is just stirring them to make sure they cool down evenly.
It smells fantastic. Well, I think we're going to tell you goodbye. Thank you so much for showing us this behind-the-scenes story. The part that most people don't know goes on here. Does it get lonely back here sometimes? A little bit?
It does. So I enjoy being able to share what I do.
Which is really a
I
science.
love what I do.
And it's truly a science.
Yep.
I didn't realize how much science went into it until we came and started talking about this. So thank you for spending time with us today. I'm going to head to the front now of the store, and I'm going to sign off with you right now. I'm going to go get my favorite coffee drink, or my current favorite, which is the Ember. And it has a little cayenne in it, which I absolutely love. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for being patient with us while we worked on our sound issue and came back live again. And we hope to see you again next week. Signing off from Lindsborg.